Hello, my name is Stephen Upton, and in this short video I'm going to talk to you about the 1914 Christmas Truce. Whilst there were Christmas truces in many parts of the Western Front, during this first Christmas of the First World War, the one that took place here is probably the most famous. Not only did British and German soldiers leave their trenches in broad daylight and gather in no man's land, they exchanged greetings and cigars and cigarettes, but also what makes this one famous is they played football. Imagine that, in the middle of a war, the two belligerent sides getting together to play football. To commemorate this, in 2014, UEFA, the football organisation, erected this memorial. But before we have a closer look, let's turn around 180 degrees and get our bearings. In the distance, looking north, that's Messines Church, and on the left, that's the New Zealand Memorial at Messines. Behind us is Plugstreet Wood, and going south further to Armentiers. And the farm you see just on the right, that's where the British front line was. But back to our footballing memorial. As you can see, there's lots of footballs been put there by people who visited. Not just the traditional wreaths, but footballs and footballing scarves. And the memorial itself, made out of an old artillery shell, and there's been a metal football created and placed on top. Look at the ground. See the zigzaggy lines going out? They're to represent the two opposing trench lines. To all those who experienced the small peace in the Great War. Yeah, so those zigzaggy lines represent on the right the Germans, on the left the British. And they lead to some reconstructed trenches. Please note that these are not original trenches. They've been reconstructed. So typical German trenches in the zigzag, in the square type formation. The British and the German high commands were not amused by this. And in the following year, Christmas of 1915, they took steps to ensure that it didn't happen by threatening severe punishments. They wanted to preserve the fighting spirit of their respective armies. And this one, which is more zigzaggy than square, is a representative of a British trench. So you've got the two sets of mock trenches, and then the zigzaggy lines bringing the two together where the football memorial is, symbolising the peace that these men felt for one day. And this is an original photograph of British and German soldiers in no man's land. So the two lines of trenches converging at the football match. Amazing when you think about it. But there was truces, informal truces, on that very first Christmas of the war all over the Western Front. The farm you see in the distance, that's where the British front line was, and this is Prowse Point Cemetery. It's actually a very old cemetery and dates from the earliest days of the war, created by the 1st Battalion, the Royal Warwicks, and another battalion whose name eludes me. You see a little concrete blockhouse there, which is British. And now Prowse Point Cemetery is behind us. We're flying along the road towards where the marker is that tells you where the football match took place out in no man's land. We're still actually 200 or 300 yards behind the British front line. The darker green trees in the far distance, that's where the German front line trenches were, and they would have come round to the left and curved around behind the camera. Now as we just swing round now, we're going to pan down and you'll see a cross at the side of the road. The front line is over the far side of that wheat field. So just to the side of the road, I'd put an arrow in now, there. That's the marker that says in this field in front of you, in no man's land, the football match took place. But as we move back up in the air and pan up again, Most of that is behind the British front line, but the British front line is roughly where those buildings are. So most of the wheat field was in British hands. Just to the right of those buildings, you see a clump of bushes. That was the German front line. Now we know that because that's a crater that was detonated in 1917 directly under the German front line as part of the June attack on Messines. So no man's land is in between the two. Right there, that's no man's land, in line with the roadside marker, so probably where the football match took place. That's the crater, which we know is directly under the German front lines. And as you can see from this trench map, that's where the crater is. That's the red line, which is German. The blue line is British trenches. There's no man's land, in line with the marker. So that's probably where it took place, give or take a few yards. So panning round to the right, the British trench would have curved round, most of the wheat field in British hands, and even as far as where that building is in the distance, you can see a white tower there. That's where the British front line is. Now that marker is where there's a big crater. Just in front of that to the left, that's another crater, but just in front of the first crater to the left is a tower. That's right on the British front line. The two craters are the German front line. Now, of course, during the war, all of these buildings would have been flattened. But that building there is very interesting because in the cellar, it was a British dugout, and Bruce Bairnsfather, who was the famous cartoonist, he started doing a lot of his cartoons in the cellar underneath that building. And he was famous for his character called Old Bill, which was an old British soldier. And his cartoons were published. What we're seeing ahead of us now is looking to the south towards Armentières, and that's Plugstreet Wood. Mud Corner Cemetery directly ahead in front of the woods, and there's Prowse Point again. My own grandfather was with the 5th Battalion, the Royal Warwicks. The truce took place whilst the 1st Battalion was here, holding the trenches, and the 5th Battalion, which was a TA battalion, arrived in France in March 1915, 3 months after the truce, and they moved into these trenches for their orientation in June of 1915. So just behind the camera now are the trenches where my own grandfather was in June of 1915. As we fly back towards Prowse Point, we can see the two lines of mock trenches. One of my jobs is I'm a book publisher, and I've republished the 5th Battalion Royal Warwickshire Regiment's First World War record, mainly as in the memory of my grandfather, and I've added to the original publication photographs of my grandfather through each year of the war as a personal tribute. And the book is available through my website, which is sdubooks.com. I've also now republished my own father's Second World War's regiment war record. So the 5th Battalion Royal Warwicks is available, and also the 94th Field Regiment Royal Artillery's Second World War record, available through sdubooks.com. As we bring this video to an end now, we're going to just focus upon the Cross of Sacrifice, which is present in all British military cemeteries. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been informative. It shows what can happen when there's a will. One day of peace in a terrible war. If you'd like to visit or see more of my videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it not only informative but also enjoyable. Thank you.